Welcome to IVF This, episode 86, Ask Better Questions. Welcome to IVF This. I'm your host, Emily Ginn. After 10 years of primary and secondary infertility due to both male and female factor infertility, I am now the mother to 3 beautiful miracles. I am married to my favorite person in the world. I'm a social worker, a life coach, and an IVF warrior. I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and emotions during your IVF journey, to break free from anxiety and regain control of your life, even in the midst of infertility. I'm going to teach you how to say IVF this to how we think about, talk about, and experience infertility. Let's go. Hello, my beautiful friends. I hope you are all doing so well today. Whether you're listening to this on Monday morning when the episode drops or whenever you happen to be listening, I hope you're having a beautiful day. I am really excited to talk to you all about questions and asking better ones. This is something I have absolutely 100% talked to every single one of my clients before. You see, most of us ask ourselves terrible, dead-end questions all the time. Why do things have to be this way? Why is this so hard? Why doesn't anyone support me? Why are my friends so distant? Why is my family so critical of me? What would life be like if I was finally a mom? What if I had seen the doctor sooner? What if we'd start IVF sooner? Why did I have to wait so long? These questions, my friend, I want you to really understand this, have no beneficial effect on your life. They're basically unanswerable. And let me start with saying that the problems aren't the questions themselves. Okay, that's really important. But rather that you believe the premise of the thought that created the question in the first place. So let me explain. Why do things have to be this way? Means that you believe the underlying thought of things should be different than they are right now. That will always feel terrible because you're arguing with reality. The reality is, this is where you are right now. What about the why is this so hard question? Well, with that, you're buying into either one of two premises. Either it's so hard and it should be easier, again, arguing with reality, or that it's so hard and I'm not handling it well, which also feels terrible because then you're making it mean that you're failing. Because these kinds of questions assume the premise of your thought or that the premise of your question is true, they'll never lead to a solution. You will never figure out a satisfying enough answer for them. They are unanswerable, so they keep just ruminating forever. But you never get a resolution because you never get an answer. So you just kind of swim around in this negative feeling and these negative thoughts caused by these unanswerable questions. And once you ask your brain a question like that, you can't stop thinking about it because the human brain doesn't like unanswered questions. A lot of you describe this as spiraling. Our brains think unanswered questions are actually dangerous, right? Because any unknown to your primitive brain could be something that might kill you, right? It's just how it interprets it. It feels uncertain. The unmanaged mind does not do well with uncertainty. If you've listened to this podcast before, you know I've talked about this like ad nauseum. And if you started doing some of the thought work that I describe, you've probably noticed this about yourself. The human mind doesn't want to think that there's anything out there that it doesn't know about that could be a threat. It's the same reason that risk and change and the unknown are all such a trigger for emotional drama. Because evolutionarily, your brain doesn't want to think that there's anything it doesn't know, right? That is so scary to your brain. The unknown could always be something that would hurt you or kill you. That's just how your brain thinks. So if there's an unanswered question out there, something you don't know, it's going to obsess about it until it can determine or decide if it's safe or not. What those questions are asking it, this determination, can never come. Again, since these questions are unanswerable, you will never have a satisfactory enough answer that your brain will just up and decide to think about something else. Like, okay, that was a good answer. Moving on. Some of my clients talk about feeling stuck in this spiral, and this is why. There's no answer that you could give for these questions that will satisfy that primitive brain of yours. So what is the opposite of these questions, these dead-end unanswerable questions? The opposite is a powerful or empowering question. They're questions with a positive, or at the very least, a neutral premise. It gives you the opportunity to explore more possibility rather than just get stuck in the spin cycle of rumination. The goal is to give your brain space and compassion with questions so it can, one, come up with an actual tangible, beneficial thing or things to help you answer that question. And two, when our brains feel that space and compassion, it allows it to get way more creative. So some examples of powerful questions to ask yourself would be, what are some things that I can do to make this process, whether it's infertility, IVF, transfers, whatever, easier on myself? How much evidence can I find that my partner, my friends, myself support me? What are some ways that I can create connection with myself so that I will be more willing and interested in connecting with other people? Because we feel disconnected from ourselves a lot of the time, many of us will feel disconnected from other people. So we want to get our house, our brains, in order first. Another one might be knowing that infertility sucks and I'm doing all of the things. How do I want to think and feel about myself throughout this process? Right? We're not trying to sugarcoat the experience of infertility, but how can I take care of myself? Always the center of those really powerful questions. How am I going to take care of myself if my clinic calls me and it's not good news? What I want you to see about these questions is they kind of contain a positive or neutral premise, and they prompt your brain to come up with a positive or neutral outcome or thought. What we're not talking about is creating an affirmation. Now, some of you know I have a love-hate relationship with affirmations. I think on their surface, they're fine, but I think a lot of us try to force affirmations, and that is mostly counterproductive, because if you don't believe the pie in the sky type of affirmations that are out there, then the affirmation is pretty much just you saying words. We try to force ourselves to believe these things, but there's no emotional payoff because you don't believe it. So it's just kind of hollow. Your body doesn't feel any different. And so you sort of, again, lose hope and you're worse off maybe than when you started. When affirmations don't work, we tend to make that mean that there's something wrong with us. Like we couldn't even do an affirmation right. Holy hell, right? Overall, I don't think that affirmations are a problem, but I don't think that they're as effective if your brain doesn't believe them. The reason that I think that this can work where affirmations don't is that you're not telling yourself to believe something, right? You're asking yourself a question that your brain will then find reasons to answer. And when your brain finds the evidence to answer it, you will be able to believe it. When we ask brains questions, it just gets to work to find an answer. It's automatic. So we're basically using your brain to your advantage against its normal natural bias towards negativity. And yes, sometimes the questions can sound funny when you read them in a list. And yes, the questions can sound kind of funny when you're reading them off on a list. But if you try using them, you'll find that they stimulate your brain and come up with a bunch of reasons. Remember, your brain doesn't like unanswered questions. It wants to think that it knows everything already. So you ask it a question that will prompt self-affirming responses. That is asking it a better question. So when should you use this tool? It's important to understand that you won't always know that you are asking yourself a dead-end question because it's oftentimes very subconscious. But anytime you're feeling anxious or guilty or hopeless or self-pitying, that's a pretty good time to check in with yourself and see what questions are rattling around in that brain of yours. Anytime you think that other people can control or cause your feelings or things outside of you, then you're probably going to have a few dead-end questions up there too. And anytime you notice a dead-end question, you can change it on purpose to a more powerful question. You can also use this tool when you aren't asking yourself a question, but you're thinking dead-end thoughts. Any thought about not knowing how to do something, for instance, can be changed into asking yourself a powerful question instead. For instance, if your brain says, I don't know how to move forward with whatever it is we're considering, right? Another cycle, changing clinics, heck, even changing jobs or something like that, you can ask yourself, how can I move forward? Or what would I need to do to move forward? What would I need to know to help me make this decision? Here's another example of when it's not explicitly a question that you're asking. So if your brain continues to offer you a thought like, I don't know what I'll do if, right? Whatever happens or whatever you fear is going to happen, try. If this happens, then I will take care of myself by doing, thinking, or feeling this. Answer that. Your brain is terrified of the potential for pain, so it gets stuck. You can get it unstuck when you focus on how to take care of yourself versus trying to control or predict an outcome. I know this sounds incredibly simplistic, but I really, really urge you to try it. You will be blown away at how your brain automatically responds. Even though minutes ago it was telling you something awful, right? Telling you the exact opposite maybe. Honestly, a lot of what I do as a coach is ask people questions that they haven't thought to ask themselves. And sometimes those are unexpected. And a lot of the magic of coaching is that I put things together and make connections and ask questions that you maybe never have thought of or never occurred to you to help you understand what your thoughts are and why you're acting the way that you are. That's why I say sometimes that my job is just to show you your brain. Just show you what your brain is doing. Sometimes my questions are kind of obvious, and it's just the act of turning it into a question that prompts my client's brain to just get going. So I use these questions in my coaching practice all of the time. Asking questions from a place of empowerment will always, always, always feel better. It doesn't change the circumstance. It doesn't make infertility go away. It can't get you pregnant, anything like that. What it does do is help ease your suffering, ease your self-loathing, reconnect to yourself, to your body, to the world around you. So anytime you're feeling stuck or ruminating on dead-end questions or fixated on not wanting things to be the way that they are, stop and ask yourself a better question. Now, if you need help with that, I'm here. Schedule a free mini session with me and we can start to change that conversation, get you unstuck, and begin to take care of yourself along this journey. You can schedule mini sessions either through my website, www.ivfthiscoaching.com, and go to the Work With Me tab, or there's a direct link in my social media bios on Facebook and Instagram at IVF This Coaching. Okay, my beautiful friends, this is what I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. Have a beautiful week, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of IVF This. If you like what you've heard, click subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you want to learn more, head over to www.ivfthiscoaching.com to learn how to work together.